people who are watching it. So.
Oh, all right. Okay.
And the best part about it is we are live right now. Welcome, everyone, to another special episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I am so excited to bring back an amazing guest. We just learned it's been a while. We'll talk about that. He is a TEDx speaker, host of the incredibly popular The Self-Employed Life podcast. This is a guy that's never worked for anybody else. He's always working for himself. He's the author of Lingo, and his latest book coming out in early May 4th. The Self-Employed Life, Business, and Personal Development Strategies that create sustainable success. For those of you watching here, you already see him. For those of you listening, I bring you Jeffrey Shaw. Jeffrey, how are you today?
I'm great, Lou. Always the better for being with you.
Jeffrey, this is cool because we just talked about it before we went live. You were on Thrive Loud. Probably, we recorded this almost 3 years to the date, because your episode came out in May of 2018. It seems like that, and it also seems like a really long time too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, and it would have been for my previous book, Lingo, and that'll be 3 years at the end of this month. So yeah, I don't know where the time goes.
Okay, so let's catch everybody up on what you've been working on. Before we talk about the book, I actually want to catch up a little bit. How are you feeling? How is this lovely pandemic been in your world and your business? You know, our listeners love to hear from great thought leaders and adaptive people like yourself. So what was this last year like?
Yeah, well, you know, the advantage of having been in business for 36 years now. Of course, I started really, really young. No, I was 20. You know, I'll admit my age. Do the math. That's my age. The advantage is this is like my third rodeo of a crisis, right? 9/11, the Great Recession, and now this one. So I had a very different state of mind. I had learned so many lessons from the previous two crises that I didn't let this one unnerve me, because what I know is we always get on the other side. And there are strategically things you can do. You know, I immediately stepped into action and just looked at, where am I wasting money? Where can I cut back? And what is the world going to need more of now that I already do? You know, we talked to a lot of businesses last year. The big conversation last year was pivoting, which actually drove me crazy.
I'm with you.
Right?
It was too overdone.
It's too overdone. It's too much of a sharp turn for 99% of businesses. 99% of businesses have in their business exactly what they need. It's either look for the services or product that people want more of now, or there's probably a client base you already have that is better positioned now, because on every time there's somebody losing, there's somebody winning, right? In the Great Recession, you know, as a photographer, I worked with the wealthiest people in the country, and they were the ones that were tanked. But I also had a pool of clients that were bankruptcy attorneys. Guess who was making all the money?
Oh, they were busy.
They were busy as could be, and investors of short-term, high-interest loans. They were killing it. So within every business, you know, I don't think you have to make a sharp left turn pivot. I think you just have to dig deeper. So for me, I've coined 2020 after a term I saw in a video on YouTube. And if anybody has not seen this video, you've got to see it. It's called the Great Realization.
Okay.
So to me,
I have seen it. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. So, you know, we've had the Great Depression, we've had the Great Recession. This time to me is the Great Realization. If we don't come out of this learning unbelievable numbers of things about ourselves, our society, our country, our culture, and our businesses, then what the hell was all of this for? So to me, I've gained more clarity of direction last year than I have ever had in my life. And I'm freaking 56 years old. And I know more about myself today and where I'm going in my life now than I did a year ago.
It was really interesting because a year ago at this very time, I was very busy doing the other thing that you and I both do. You're a speaker, and you obviously speak in front of people. We can't wait to all be doing that soon, hopefully. But I know that as a podcaster, I'm really interested in this. I would love to hear from, putting you on the other side of the mic, some of the observations that you observed in a lot of your interviews and your content, all the stuff that you do, right? Guest host, things that you heard from a year ago to now that have really kind of affected not only your self-realization, but also maybe some other things that other people were doing that really were insightful.
Yeah, I hardly know of a speaker, and you're right. I mean, yes, we look forward to get back on stages, but I hardly know of a speaker who didn't also have the realization they liked being home more than they thought. Right. So, you know, I think the word moving forward is going to be hybrid. You know, we're hearing it a lot now. Everything in the world is going to be a hybrid. There's going to be hybrid workforces, some at home, some in the office. What I love about this is it finds a place for everybody, because some people love to be in the office. Some people thrive better at home. Some people thrive better on stage. Some people thrive better in virtual. I like both, but I'll tell you what, my sweet spot is virtual. I'm a 36-year photographer. Like, as soon as virtual happened, I pulled out my DSR. I was playing with depth of field and I blew people away. People are like, what the hell are you doing? You know, now people have kind of caught up and there's many ways of doing it. But I was like, okay, if there's ever a time for me to shine as a speaker in this virtual world, now is it. And even just being a photographer, I know how to work with a lens. Like, it doesn't freak out to me. Like, to me, I'm connecting right now with all your audience on LinkedIn and Facebook. Like, I know how to look into a lens. I've been instructing other people to do it for 36 years. I know how to look into a lens and imagine there are people there.
It's so funny, by the way, you mentioned it. We've had a lot of people, and we talked about the art of looking right where I'm looking right now for the listeners. Getting yourself centered in the camera, getting in the right lighting, all that stuff. I think people didn't realize how much work goes behind the camera that you actually were an expert on from the very beginning, right? That was like you were on a fast track as it related to virtual presenting.
Yeah, and it had a lot to do with communication. I mean, it's one thing to know the technical stuff, because, I haven't had any more fun than anybody else being the AV guy that I would have never been before. Like, now I'm dealing with the technology that's failing, and Ecamm and StreamYard and all this technology. So I haven't had any more fun with that than anybody else has had. But I do know communication when there are barriers, if you will, being a camera, right? How do you bring more out of somebody, through the lens? And if you don't mind me name dropping here for a moment, I learned one of the most powerful lessons, both as a photographer and in communication and branding, if all things, from Oprah Winfrey. Now, the story behind that is that I had the good fortune of my photographs being used on Oprah because of a guest she had. I personally wasn't on Oprah, but my photographs were. Go figure, right? I guess I wasn't camera ready, but my photographs were.
I would take that. I would take that as a win.
But I struck a deal. They don't have to pay you because it's Oprah. Right. Like, who's going to say no? I want money, so they don't pay. But I did strike a deal for them to fly me and my mother, because who else are you going to take but your mom, right? So I took my mother, and I went out to Chicago for the whole film and got to spend some time with Oprah. And I'll tell you what, she is exactly what you expect her to be, and that she is just connected and energetic and fantastic. But when that camera goes on, I had never in my life seen someone so intense with such a death stare in my life. So after the taping, I asked her about it and said, Oprah, I'm a photographer. I've never seen anybody stare into a lens with such force that it's actually scary the way you do. And she said, and Lou, everybody needs to take this in. Think about this both in communication, virtual world, and in brand messaging. Yeah. She said to me, the way I look at it, my message has a long ways to go. It has to get through a camera lens, into a computer chip, through a processor, and out someone's living room. If I don't hit it hard, it's not going to get through.
That's awesome. And that's so true, because this connecting through these screens has been challenging, and not everybody has that laser stare of Oprah.
Yeah. So now, as a brand message consultant, I live with that same philosophy. It's like, that is our challenge as businesses. We have to hit it hard. Our message, our brand message, the message, how we want to change the world, has a long ways to go. Maybe even longer today now, because it's virtual. We have to hit it hard.
Speaking about hitting it hard, a lot of people last year decided to use a lot of this realization time to write. And that is something you did. Share with the listeners here or everything about the self-employed life. Are we talking about is it autobiographical? Is it lessons that you can learn? Is it entrepreneurial? You have that incredible gift of connecting to customers, and you've translated your career in photography into a message. Yeah. What's the new message that's coming down the pike?
Yeah. So, and I will say, at the beginning of 2020, it wasn't the book I was writing. Right. Okay. So I was actually writing another book, and the second to last keynote I gave was a pretty life-changing for me. So I got off the stage, and it was an experimental keynote, if you will. I had never done this particular keynote before. I got off the stage, and I was so moved by my own talk. I was like, this is exactly what I want to. Right. Because what the difference was is that I like to give people a lot of value in all my work by teaching them business strategies. To be honest with you, Lou, I've held myself back a little bit over the last few years in who I am as a coach. Right. I've been coaching since 2009. I've got over 1,000 hours of training, and coaching's got a bit of a bad rap over the years. And I kind of pulled back because I wanted to be taken serious, and I didn't want to be considered I didn't want to be called too woo-woo.
Mm-hmm.
But this talk I gave is called Life is an Everything Bagel. And it was both inspirational and strategic. And I got off the stage and I called my editor and said, I'm writing the wrong book. So we started down the path of writing a book around this content, and then the pandemic hit. And I just got insanely concerned for self-employed business owners who I assumed were going to be overlooked in any financial help the government might offer. They didn't because of the PPP, but that was the first time in history that had ever happened. So through my concern, I started writing this book. And the reason it's called The Self-Employed Life is that it is literally the first book that is the realistic view for self-employed business owners. If you go to Amazon and you search for books for self-employed, you're going to get books about taxation and maybe how to make six figures when you're self-employed. Nothing that actually looks like our life. I've lived this life since I was 14, selling eggs door to door, and I've never had a job. So this book focuses on what I introduce as the self-employed ecosystem, which is what I know self-employed and small business owners need to succeed. The ecosystem consists of personal development, your mindsets, how do you grow? Because here's the thing. The book is based on a quote, my favorite quote, I've lived by this quote for years, by Jim Rohn, which is your level of success rarely exceeds your level of personal development. Okay. So it's all about capacity to me. When I want more success, I increase my capacity of my own personal growth, I have to raise up my limited belief system, get the ceiling raised. I have to increase my capacity of knowledge, right? So it's all about capacity. And that's what personal development is. It's growth. You have to increase the capacity for which the success you're worthy of will rise to meet that level of success. And then you do it over and over again for the rest of your life. And that's how you get more successful.
I like that. I like it. Yeah. Very spot on. Fun process, doing the quick spin to shift the direction of the book in that way, or was it easier probably?
This book flowed out of me. In fact, it flowed out of me so much it was actually a really hard book to edit because it was just a flow. It didn't have a strict of an outline. And then of course for me, the fun part, because I do enjoy that, and the most meat of the book is the business strategy section. Right. It is so meaty. My intention, I have a very clear goal with this book. This is not a book I want you to put on a shelf. You're going to read this book. You're going to keep it out. You're going to go back to it over and over again. There's a workbook that goes with it. I wanted to create a classic resource. People have described it as the Bible for self-employed people. But it's the life. It's so realistic. I even introduced daily habits, but they're daily habits you can get done in 10 to 15 minutes because you know what? We're self-employed. We don't have any more time than that, right? So, but I think daily habits are important for creating continuity and slowing down the ups and downs. So it's a very complete book that's so insanely realistic that people have described it, actually, Lou, as you said, as being autobiographical because I'm a good storyteller and there's a lot of stories in my own life in there. And it's everything. And people have said it's autobiographical because it's everything I've got. I left nothing on the field.
I like it
for this book.
For those that are watching this on the video feed, if you look over my head, I've got a rainbow of books behind me, and his lingo book is there. I'm really excited because this color of the book is blue.
Here's the crazy thing. So let's be even more clear. It's aquamarine.
Aquamarine. Now, I apologize.
Here's why this is crazy. Here's why this is crazy. And people don't believe me. I had no control over the book cover. My publisher, the designer of the book, they designed the cover. They sent me the cover and I'm like, I literally looked at it and said, are you freaking kidding me? It's literally the accent color in my apartment. It's the entire accent color. Furthermore, in the book, I describe, I get into everything. I'm such a geek. So when I saw the color, I'm like, well, what's the philosophical meaning behind aquamarine? Aquamarine as a color means it's a blend because it's a blend of blue and green. It's often the color of a Caribbean Ocean, for example. It means the force of waves and tumultuous and the serenity, like the ocean. The ocean is both tumultuous and serene. In the book, I describe the perfect state of mind for success is high energy and calmness. Like, how can you approach what you do with such commitment and passion? There's a high energy to it while maintaining a level and grounded mindset so that you can make smart decisions. The parallel between the colors was so crazy. I went out and bought a car that matched the book cover.
Okay. You see, this is where, for those that know Jeffrey, this makes sense. First of all, he's described the book. He's described who he is. He also has picked a color He's got one of the bluest eyes you'll ever run across. And he lives in Miami, which is like aquamarine and like the sports teams have that color.
So I went out and bought. So one day I was walking and this Mini Cooper drives by me in the exact color of my book. So I tracked it down and I bought a Mini Cooper that's the exact color of the cover of my book just because. Just because.
I look forward to 3 years from now to seeing what's next, and hopefully it'll be a house color that you adapt. I'm going to go down a different avenue than I normally do with guests because you've been here before, Jeff. I want to understand the big takeaway. Sometimes it's hard when you came in with a great cause because there's so many people that needed the messages that you had, and these young and people with their own businesses. And it is true. They will still be suffering as we come out of the pandemic and vaccines are deployed and things start to ease up. We still have a lot of making up to do. For the listener and for the future reader of the book, what's the big takeaway you want them to have after you've gone through and it's come out on the shelves? What's that takeaway?
Oh, gosh, it's fine. I thought you were going a different direction. I thought what's the big takeaway for like where we are right now? And I guess they're kind of one and the same. Okay. So the big takeaway of the book is, and I literally start the book off this way, because I have asked self-employed business owners for years why they became self-employed. And everybody has the same answer. It's some version of, I wanted control. I want to control my destiny. I want to control my future. I want to control the hours I work. I want to control my future. It's always some degree of control, to which I say, and how's that going for you? Right. And everybody's like, yeah, it turned out not to be the case. So that's really that is the big takeaway. The big takeaway of this book is that, and it was more clearly pointed out to me by the editor of my previous book. She said to me, she goes, your genius, and this is her word, she goes, your genius is in helping people set up the environment for the results they want. And that is the big takeaway of the self-employed life, and certainly the dynamic of the self-employed ecosystem. What I'm offering people is a way of creating the environment, right? That's what an ecosystem is. But you can create the environment through your own personal development, through your business strategy, through consistent and daily habits. You can do all that you can do, all that you can possibly do to create the environment for what you want to have happen. It's not woo-woo entirely. It's not sitting back. It's not manifesting. It's not hoping and it's not shoot and spray. It is as much control as you can have to create the environment for which then you just have to accept the circumstances. Yeah. Right. And that to me is all the power. The control we're seeking is not outside of us. The control we're seeking is get a hold of the control of the environment. And I can almost guarantee you, if you take control of the environment, what you want to have happen is going to happen. And if it doesn't, you can reason that it didn't happen, but you did all that you can.
I like that. And I think it's really true. I mean, that's always been the big joke, that when it really hit hard in March and April last year, Jeffrey, I was listening to people say, I feel like I don't have any understanding, or the future is so uncertain. I mean, the future has always been so uncertain. Yeah. It's shaping your own business, your own plan, your own direction in a way that isn't really, you can't control everything, but you can control certain aspects of what you do to get yourself on that path. And I think someone who's been doing this from so many different businesses entrepreneurially may see more of that than others that are, have had different parts of that in their career, working for others and taking on this direction.
Yeah, correct. It's one of the things I like best in the book, as far as one of the chapters and the sections in the book, is what I call a business model of multiples, because I've always been a proponent of multiple income streams. The irony is, and I'm the first to admit, as a photographer, I had one of the most niche businesses you can possibly have, right? I photographed families in color for rich people. Like, I literally had a niche for the rich. Like, it was just, it doesn't get any more niche. But that was fine in the 80s and 90s. But I also saw how that was going to evolve and change. And it's not such a smart business model today, or at least redefine it. So I start with helping people redefine what niche means. Really today, in today's world, I believe what niche means is to know what your area of expertise is with absolute clarity and having a clear way to communicate it. When you know your area of expertise, for which there are probably multiple audiences and multiple ways you can get that out in the world. So now you have a business model of multiples. in the book, the way I describe this, and we actually provide a diagram, I look at it as a switchboard of levers.
Okay.
Imagine the control if you, and I generally suggest about 7 income streams. That seems to be the sweet spot I see amongst most businesses, right? Imagine standing before a switchboard with these massive 7 levers. And when something comes along in life, as it always will, you get to decide which lever gets ramped up and which one gets pulled down.
Like it.
And when the pandemic hit, I immediately turned to my brand message consultant lever because I'm like, you know what? Everybody's going to need to figure out how to rebrand their business right now, companies and small businesses. So I ramped that level up and did double last year the business I did in that category, that income stream that I did the year before.
Yeah.
Right. But to your point earlier, the speaking lever that practically left the building.
Right. Or got shut down.
It got stuck down at,
although it's interesting, I'll tell you, because I mean, I did a tremendous amount of speaking virtually.
Yeah, I say that jokingly, but right.
Yeah. And to your hybrid component, if there's a hybrid of it, the consulting and the speaking component became a blended source of a lot of people in the sense that they maybe were introduced and work virtually. I do a lot of work with companies and in companies, and that led to more work in that space. And I'm sure that's the same in the way that you communicate as well.
I actually, to your point, and I said it in jest, but to your point, my income was actually higher as a speaker in 2020 than it was 2019. It just, honestly, I wasn't working for it though.
Right.
I mean, the gigs I had canceled, most of the gigs I had scheduled, most of them canceled. A few adapted to virtual. But other gigs were just coming in virtually and they were so easy for me to crank out. It actually didn't feel like work. So it didn't feel like the lever had even lifted up. I kind of let it be, let it do it. I just didn't put my focus on it because it didn't seem where the most opportunity was. But the most opportunity was in the brand message consulting, which worked out really well. So that to me is where, that's what I mean by creating the environment, because, it is uncontrollable circumstances. And it is more important to have multiple income streams. But if you look at it as having a switchboard of levers, you finally feel like you have a sense of control that you can decide. I've been in control of my life all along. I've been pulling down the lever of being a photographer for the past 10 years, right? Little by little. I'm down now. I used to do 175 shoots a year. Now I'll do like 6 to 8 of my top clients. So I've been pulling that lever down at my own discretion in order to have room to push the other levers up that I want to make more impact with.
Makes perfect sense.
It's control.
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do the plug part of the show here. Share with all the listeners, and the viewers will send all the links to as well. I know the book's coming out in May. We'll have this episode is airing sometime between then and now. Yeah. And we'll figure all that out afterwards. We'll figure out what makes the most sense for Jeffrey. But for the listeners who are hearing it right now, where can they get the book, websites, links, all that fun stuff?
So I tell you, here's the cool thing, and I know this is even I think in a broadcast before that. I've just stepped so deeply into this commitment, and again, there's such a lacking in the world of any help and support for self-employed businesses. And what happened, Lou, and I know you can appreciate that. I started looking for speaking gigs for self-employed, as a self-employed expert. Really, there aren't any. Like there's not a single event in the world for self-employed business owners. At best, there are self-employed people at association events.
Right.
Okay? So that's where I'm headed as a speaker. But I wanted to create an event specifically for self-employed business owners. So I just did it myself. So I've created a 2-day online summit, which will be taking place April 12th and 13th.
Cool.
10 of the most amazing speakers you can imagine. Many of them, Phil Jones, Brant Menswar.
Oh, nice.
Top-notch speakers that.
What was this, a Florida-only event now? Is that what you did?
No, but it's funny you should mention that. I hadn't thought of that. Phil, I still consider Phil.
I know it's tough to not.
No, it's just an amazing Leslie M, who is a future guest of yours. She's one of our speakers.
And by the way, Brant and Phil have been on the show many times.
Yeah, I mean, so it's have access. The access to that 2-day summit of these amazing speakers is a pre-order of the book for $17.95.
Oh, nice. There you go.
You pre-order the book. You get access to the summit with proof of purchase with a receipt that you emailed to me. It's just crazy. What an incredible access. So that's a must do for anybody listening in. It's the easiest thing in the world. I do like to connect with people. And the other thing I'll share, anybody can grab a whole bundle of graphs at selfemployedbundle.com. Actually, hang on a second. Let me check that domain. I thought
no worries.
I got it right. Selfemployedbundle.com.
Okay.
The book has life at the end. The URL does not. So selfemployedbundle.com. And it has like that lever, the levers I was describing, the diagram is in that bundle.
I love it.
So now it's not just me talking about it. You get to see the diagram as well as several other diagrams, and as well as a guide on how to be an awesome podcast guest.
Well, look at that.
Right? Because you and I,
perfect.
Right? Because you and I are like, want to pull our hair, what little hair you have left, you want to pull out, right? Because there's so many bad guests.
You have way better hair than I do, Jeffrey. Let's make that clear. But you are 100%. But I will say this: I think for at least at this stage, there are some really. We have elevated the game. The bad ones stick out definitely more now because people have done a really good job of figuring out how to be a great guest.
It's such, for so many people, it's such an awesome way of marketing themselves. Let's face it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and that's why the bar got lowered so much during the pandemic because everybody saw it as the only way to market their business, right. And then the bar just plummeted is a race to the bottom. So I want to bring that bar back up. So I wound up doing a masterclass on how to be an awesome podcast guest. And I threw it together in 4 days. The people loved it so much. I put it together as a written guide and it's included in this bundle. So if you want to be a guest on other people's podcasts and strive for the top bar like Lou's, then this guide will help you get there.
I like it. Let's do Fun Street, Jeffrey, because you didn't do Fun Street 3+ years ago because we didn't have it. We added it to the show. We asked you way back when, and I don't remember the answer. We asked you what your all-time favorite movie is. So we're not going to revisit that part of the question. The way this works, Jeffrey, permission. Are we cool? You ready to go now?
Absolutely. Nothing off limits.
Okay. You always have fun. So the way this works is I want you to bring to the audience's attention the thing that comes to your mind first when I ask you the question. These are things that lift you up, make you feel good, basically make you thrive. You ready for the questions to go? Sure. It's kind of like Family Feud, just I've only surveyed you. Okay. Okay. A song you love to hear or that pumps you up?
Unstoppable by Sia. I'm laughing because I have the musical taste of a 14-year-old girl. I'm the first one to admit it. I have to admit it. Unstoppable by Sia. It's my walk-on song before I go on stage.
I like it. My producers like it too because we have the rights to play that one. A favorite food that's not a dessert.
Good, because I'm not big on desserts. I'm all Indian.
Favorite dessert.
Favorite dessert. Carrot cake.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Kayak.
An activity you wish you did less of.
Admin.
If you could snap your fingers, Jeffrey, and go anywhere in the world, where are you?
That's the crazy thing. I live in paradise. Actually, Prague.
Okay, that's a good one. We haven't hit the Central Europe.
It's top of my list right now. As soon as this country opens up, that's where I'm going. Prague. Yeah.
So the last question, which really isn't Fun Street, who would have thought? Talk about maybe this. I'm going to use the word, Jeffrey. Maybe this is the pivot. This is the day. We recorded this on January 20th. Those watching it live, say hello to you there on the inauguration day here, and only a few hours after we have inaugurated our 46th president, and a pretty impressive presentation and a whole, fanfare of activities. As you look forward to this year, 2021, and all the changes and all the things going on, what are you most excited about, and what are you most hopeful about?
Yeah, I mean, what an auspicious day. I had some concern whether we're going to have to cancel this because, was there going to be complete civil unrest? We didn't know going into this, and thankfully it couldn't have gone in a better way. And I'll add to that, Amanda Gorman is the name.
I'm going to say it. I put a post in social media for those today. It was incredible. She is spectacular.
I just saw her speak on Sunday at a virtual event that I was attending, and she was the opening keynote. And I was already like, who is this? How do I not know? And so I started stalking her and following her everywhere. And then she shows up at the inauguration. She, to me, represents all the hope in the world at this. She's 22 years old. She speaks with not just eloquence, but the word. You do not, I need to say this clearly. You do not come up with the words that she presented without having an actual clean, pure stream of energy to source. Whatever source is for anybody. You cannot put together, compose what she composed. And as a photographer, I know a bit about composition. You cannot compose what she composed without such a high level of groundedness and ability to get right through to the energy that you need to pull those words out. She is not only as an individual, but it's that attitude of leadership and hope. I am insanely hopeful about this year. Insanely, because on the other side of a trying time is just unbelievable opportunity. And it is the great realization. I more than anything, what I want for people now is to build their businesses and and create the lives they most want. Yeah. That's why I wrote my book too. And I put that in the book. It's like every decision I have ever made in business has been based on how I want to live. And I want people not just have successful businesses, but to truly have the self-employed life, the life that they want to live.
I love it. I can't think of a better way to end the show. Although I will say, let's bring back and connect all the dots here. If you heard some of the commentary, some of, I believe, the earrings that Andrea was wearing today were provided to her by Oprah after that whole thing. Yeah, Oprah was very much involved in Maya Angelou's presentation when Maya spoke at Clinton's inauguration. And today we just got to, for those who haven't heard it, go listen to her poem. It's incredible. Really is.
It is. Yeah, it's really unbelievable. It is. Yeah.
On that note, Jeffrey, truly a pleasure. The Self-Employed Life, the podcast, the book, you got it all going on. The Aquamarine, everyone take a look for it. Your event in April, great to bring you back here. Great to catch up with you again, man. This was a ton of fun. Thank you for coming on Thrive Loud.
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate you.
And to all our listeners, viewers, and everybody out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.